All right, hello everybody. My name is Nick. I am a graduate student at RIT. This is for the computer system security class. We're giving a presentation on a tool. As you can see here, I chose BloodHound, and if you've never heard of it, well, this is for you. So what is BloodHound? Is it an attack tool? Is it a defend tool? Well, actually, it's a bit of both. It can be used either way. What I found about this tool is that it's not really like your Metasploit. It doesn't exploit vulnerabilities for you, but it does find misconfigurations in the Active Directory environment. And sometimes that's all security is just misconfigurations. For large enterprises, things can fall through the cracks, and administrators forget about them, and attackers exploit them. So if you're defending, you can use this to find those misconfigurations so you know to fix them. But if you're attacking, find the misconfigurations and exploit them. So, why? What's the purpose of this? Well, I kind of already talked about this before. To find misconfigurations, and for a small company, this might seem a little far-fetched to you, but think about very large companies, like hundreds of thousands of employees. They can't keep them all straight in their head. So that's really where misconfigurations come from when you scale up on such a large level. So BloodHound will look for relationships between users and groups and find shortest paths to get the domain admin for you and things like that. So it pretty much generates a map that you can use, and if you're like me and you're a visual learner, this can be very helpful as it creates a map for you. And yeah, so straight from the BloodHound GitHub, I'll read this excerpt that I found. BloodHound uses graph theory to reveal the hidden and often unintended relationships between an Active Directory environment. Attackers can use BloodHound to easily identify highly complex attack paths that would otherwise be impossible to quickly identify. Defenders can use BloodHound to identify and eliminate those same attack paths. Both blue and red teams can use BloodHound to easily gain a deeper understanding of a privilege relationships in a Active Directory environment. So there you go. So how does it work? You need at least one user in the domain so that you can run these queries to find relationships and different users and things like that. And that's pretty much a given. You usually have, you need some sort of user. It doesn't have to be a privileged user, but you need some sort of user so then you can escalate your privileges, and that's what this finds. BloodHound also has a tool called SharpHound, which runs these queries for you and generates JSON files that you then throw into it to graph. And SharpHound, there's a PowerShell script or an executable that you can run to generate these. But as we'll see in a demonstration later, you don't need to run it on a Windows machine. You can use a Linux machine. There's a Python plugin for you to generate all of those, and I'll show you that later. So yeah, BloodHound is a single-page JavaScript web application built on top of Linkurus, compiled with Electron, with a Neo4j database fed by a C# data collector. So SharpHound is written in C#. Some BloodHound lingo for you. So there are really two main types of objects in the BloodHound graph. There are nodes, which we can see here, and these are users, groups, computers. So the domain admins would be a node, and they're all objects in the Active Directory environment. And in BloodHound, say you want to target the domain admins, well, you can see all these options here. If you right click on the node, you can set it as the ending node. You can find the shortest path here. Again, we'll go over this more in the demo, but just so that you know what nodes are. And the second type of object are edges, which can be kind of confusing by their name, but these are the links of like how these the nodes are connected, the relationship between the two. And there's a bunch of them. Probably the most common is member of. So in this example, you see David McGuire is a member of domain admins and domain users. But there's more than that, some other types, but this is not an exhaustive list. There's member of, has sessions, so you can see if someone has a session currently, force change password, add members if they're able to add members, if they can RDP, can PS remote, exec decom, SQL admin, allowed to delegate, etc. So this, once you see these edges, you can say, oh, this is a high value target. I want to focus my time on getting access to this user because they have these edges. You know, they can PS remote, so I want that. It's also important to note BloodHound works on on-prem Active Directory, but nowadays everybody's switching to the cloud and they're using Azure AD. Well, BloodHound has its own application for that too. And if I have to guess, probably Azure AD is misconfigured more than on-prem AD. But that's just me. So once you put those two edges and nodes together, this is the kind of thing that you get. Again, this is just a very basic example. Think of a large enterprise or small to large enterprise that has hundreds of users, and you can see how it becomes nice to have BloodHound to graph this all for you. So yeah, we have 3 accounts here. They're all part of the domain admin, so they're gonna be worth looking into to see if you can compromise one of these so that you can get the domain admin's privileges. And lastly, the resources. So BloodHound has a whole read the docs website that you can go to. I find it very informative. It pretty much has everything you could possibly want. Actually, I can go to it right now. If I just do BloodHound, read the docs. So here it is. It tells you exactly how to install it for each Windows, Mac, Linux. And I did this twice actually, and it's literally copy and paste. So it's very easy to get this up and running. It talks about BloodHound, what it does, and I'll be showing you this before, some different flags that you can set, because you have to remember these are all queries that are being performed, so it can generate a lot of traffic if you have a large environment and you say you want to do all. Well, they're probably if there's a decent blue team, they're probably going to find you. Yeah. So what else was useful? Also the GitHub, very useful, because this is where you download BloodHound, and they also have BloodHound here too. And what also is fantastic is they have their own database creator. And this is what I did later. So I'll show you the same environment that I use for the attack defense exercise where we already had a username hacker. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's another video on this channel that you can go and check out. And we use the printer bug exploit to get the machine account and create a silver ticket with. So I'll be showing you that, but unfortunately, it's really only that one user in the administrator, so it's not very, it doesn't show the potential of BloodHound. So instead, I'll show you another instance of BloodHound where I use the database creator, and it basically just generates a bunch of users randomly, and you can see all that BloodHound has to offer. So we'll jump right into that now. Okay, so now we're on the Kali box here. I've already installed BloodHound. Like I said, it was copy and paste the instructions from the Read the Docs website. So if you want to follow along, just go through each step of this. So yeah, there's a Python plugin for BloodHound that allows you to basically run do the same thing as SharpHound, but from a Linux machine. And I think it uses like Impacket to run these queries because you are connecting to the domain controller. But it's called BloodHound Python. And if we just hit enter, it should give us all the flags here. Scroll, there we go. So yeah, Python-based ingester for BloodHound. And you can find it here. And Foxit is a contributor to BloodHound. So this is a legitimate tool. But basically all you do is we'll give it the username, the password, the collection method, which for us, for this example, we're just going to do all, and get as much as we possibly can. We'll also specify the name server, which is just the IP address, or I guess you could use the FQDN, but we don't have one set up. And the domain, which again, this is the same environment as the past video. So the domain is cybertigers.net. So I've already run this command before. There it is. So yeah, here we go. BloodHound Python, TACU hacker for our username, TACP wordpass1 for the password. The name server is at this IP address. The domain name is cybertigers.net, and the collection method, we just want all. Okay, so hit that. It'll then generate all of these JSON files for us. Well, not this SharpHound, but these JSON, so computers, domains, groups, and users. And I already have BloodHound up, and I've already imported them, but basically all you have to do is open up a file explorer to where those files are, you drag them and you drop them in, and uploading data. Cool. That's all you have to do. Very, very easy. And as you can see here is our user hacker that we have already we've already used to escalate a privilege, but I don't think BloodHound actually knows about that attack, but that's okay. It's not a end-all be-all tool. But if you click on a node, you can see a bunch of different information. Password, when the password is last changed, last logged on, I've never logged on using that. Username, password, the object ID, like everything you could possibly want is in here. And like I said, there's not much here. We could find all the domain admins, and there's only one because it's default install of Active Directory with the exception of the hacker user, but these are all pre-built queries that you can run to find what exactly you're looking for, or you could construct your own. But these are pretty much a good list here. Maybe you could write one to find the printer bug. But yeah, so I will now be switching over to the randomly generated one because that one is much more interesting. Okay, this is the last part of the BloodHound video. I'm going to show you how to generate your own data just randomly using the database creator tool from BloodHound. Right now on my screen, I have the Neo4j database. I'm logged in. You can see there's nothing in this database right now, but we're going to change that. Here is the GitHub for the database creator tool. There's some other tools, but I'm not going to talk about them. I'm mainly just worried about this DB creator. So you clone this repo, you install the Neo4j driver, and then you run it. And there's some different commands that you can give it. You can set the domain name if you want. And there are some reasons that you would want to do this to test out your BloodHound instance, or maybe you're like me, you're giving a talk on it. So without further ado, we'll get it going. You can see BloodHound is up, and I'll just go into my terminal. Oh, one thing I should note, this tool is broken. You can see there's an issue with it. It's been open since November 17th, 2020. But somebody has updated and rewrote the DB creator, so that does work. So I have downloaded this, and this is what I'm using. So if you want to do this, I would suggest doing the same. Download this, and it just replaces the dbcreator.py. Okay. So we do Python dbcreator.py. So this generator will connect directly to your database, and it doesn't create JSON files to drop into BloodHound. So you have to tell it where the database is and give it the credentials so that it can log in and place this information. So we do that with the dbconfig command. I've left the URL, the DB URL default. Also, the username is default Neo4j, but I did change the password to be the super secure password. No encryption, and that's it. So now we can set our domain. Otherwise, it'll just be test.local, and that's no fun. We're going to change it to cybertigers.net. And now we can generate. You could set how many nodes you want, but if we go back into the GitHub here, DB creator, it says that the default is a safe number. So I don't want to play around with it and break it. So I'm just going to do the default, generate, and let it do its thing. It doesn't take that long, and we're done. Okay, so now we can go into BloodHound, refresh. I don't think, yeah, nothing's gonna pop up first. But if we find all domain admins, oh, here we go. So we have a bunch of these domain admins. Oh, where did my screen go? And we can click on the nodes. So this is some sort of user at cybertigers.net, and you can click on each one and it'll give you different information about them, the display name, Catherine Collin, the object ID, all of this stuff. I'll show you that later, but just gives you a bunch of information on this particular user, and we can see that all of these users are a member of the domain admins. but we can go, these are all different queries that we can do. Find Kerberoastable users with most privileges. Oh, there's nothing in there. Let's see if there's any ASREP roastable users. Nope. Computers with unsupported operating systems. Let's see what this is about. No, it's loading. This is running in a VM, so I might not have all the resources that it needs. It might be a little slow. I think it's frozen. But what I can do is just go back and restart it. Here we go. Neo4j and password. All right. Well, it seems to have fixed it because now I can do all this. That's weird. So let's see. Here we can see there are other edges, not just member of. Get changes is one. So there's that. These are computers, not just users. And we can go into like users and we can select them and set them as like this is where we want to start, or we can say we've owned this user. Well, we can set it as such. And now when we go and try to find the shortest path to the domain admins, oh boy, this is where it gets complicated. But we can see that our owned user here, fmac, is probably going to be a good place to go. But I think this randomly generated database really shows how complicated things get and why it is so important to have this all graphed out and have these queries be something that is useful to you, so you can cut out all the nonsense and focus on what you want to do, which assuming you can see this target here, we want to get domain admins. That's the end game. So I hope this inspired you all to learn a little bit more about BloodHound. I'm no expert on it, but I hope that you learned something from this. And yeah, thanks for watching.